Hi guys, I wanted to talk about some of the books I read in 2019. I read a total of 22 books. Originally there was a goal to read 52 when my daughter issued me a challenge, and one of the videos I posted last year of where she picked some books up for me for the library, which a couple of them I think are actually in the stack that I did get through last year. I still have a few more of those to get through, and I will try to link to that video in the description below or in an iCard, so in case you want to go check out what books she got from me last year at a library like kind of book haul thing that she did. But it was around May that my daughter issued the challenge for me to read 52 books last year. I didn't quite get to the 52, but I'm pretty pleased with the 22 that I did read. It was just about getting back into the swing of things. I grew up reading all the time, and then I kind of just slacked off the last few years. And then last year I read a book and it kind of sparked me wanting to read more. And then my daughter did that book haul and kind of challenged me, and I've been trying to read a little more as it, since that challenge. But I thought I would share as many of the books as I can. I may not give you a specific review of them, but I will show you them, and then I'll kind of delve a little more into the ones that I kind of felt that I liked the most that I read last year. I will also try to have, in the description, list all the books I read last year in case I pronounce any author's names wrong or anything like that. You can check the list down in the description below, and I'll also try to make sure I can maybe somewhere on the screen put the last name of the author on there, just in case it doesn't show up that well from the book cover for you to find out. But again, I just wanted to kind of quickly go through some of the books I read, and I'll probably pause on the ones that I feel like I have a little more to say, or if they may mean a little more to me. They're in no particular order beside me. They are in a way. I kind of grouped them by whether they were part of a series or nonfiction or something like that. I only read a total of 4 nonfiction books last year, and I only read 2 books that ended up being on Kindle, and the 2 books on Kindle were My Boy, Their Son by Mariah, MacCarthy, and the other one was Take Me With You by Catherine Ryan Hyde. I'll try to insert a couple images if I can of the book covers so you can see what they're like right about now. Okay, so those were the covers of the 2 Kindle books I read. The rest of the books I actually have beside me. I am reading quite a bit this year. I've read like 6 books total for this year. And again, about 3 of them so far are Kindle, so I've actually read more Kindle this year than I did last year. And when I do my book reviews for this year, I'm either going to do them after each month, or I'm going to do them every couple months. It really depends on how many books I read and if I feel like I have something to say. So I'm not going to do necessarily book reviews every month unless I really want to share with you guys what I read this year, or I may group them together. It really just depends on my mood and my time frame of filming. So if you're interested in book reviews, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, because I'll definitely be doing more of those throughout the year. And I'll also be sharing like money saving tips and such as the year progresses. So it's not just going to be about book reviews on this channel, it's going to be about a wide range of things, my 2 cents on a lot of different things. So I hope you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of future videos. Now, that being said, let's delve into some of the books I read last year. Now, first I want to say that the book that got me reading again was actually this one. And I'm hoping it shows up well. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom. This is a book that I read that actually got me wanting to read more. What I liked about this book is the use of black and white photos throughout it, which really I felt added a depth to it. It kind of made you feel kind of like you were a kid again reading books that were illustrated, yet this time they were like illustrated by photos, and I love photography and like black and white photos, so it was really cool. And even on the back there's some images. But it was really cool that this author was able to find legitimate black and white photos and make a story with them. This is about a boy who ends up finding out kind of like his grandfather's, almost like a secret that his grandfather kind of had. And he ends up meeting these children that have kind of like powers or abilities, I want to say. One can be invisible, one can like just float up into the air, one can make fire in her hands, one is incredibly strong, and so forth. And so he ends up discovering this kind of world, like this passage between these 2 types of worlds, and it kind of is his journey going through that after his grandfather passes away. And there is more in the series. So again, this is the first one I read last year that really got me back into reading, and reading so much that I got this from my local library, and I believe I may have bought this one, and then there's 2 more in the series that I have on hand, and those might have came from my local library when they were clearancing out some books. But there's also another one that's coming out this year that I'll probably get later this year that goes in this series. So these are the 2 I was able to read last year from this series, and I enjoyed them both. They both kind of kept me entertained. They both used the photo ideas that I like, and I just like the progression of learning more and kind of the boy's struggle learning about his grandfather's past. And then how in this one he kind of gets where he has to help those children get back their like teacher, so to speak. So I think it's really a good read, and I wish like my daughter would like reading this. I'm hoping that she'll read this when she's older. So this is a series that I read last year and that I am planning on trying to keep and hopefully pass to my daughter to read, because it kind of gives you that vibe of just like this otherworldly thing. I don't want to compare it to Harry Potter because I've never read Harry Potter. And I know right now a lot of people are like, what? You've never read Harry Potter? I've never read Harry Potter. But I want to say that this feel might be like that, the fact that it's a series and it's about this ordinary boy that almost finds out he maybe has some of his own abilities. And it's kind of interesting to see how that plays out. I'm really curious about the next books in the series, which are over on my to be read shelf over by my chair. I have 2 more books in the series, and again, like I said, there'll be a 5th book coming out that I'll want to read. That's how much I enjoyed reading these. Okay, the next, after reading Miss Peregrine, the Miss Peculiar Children books, the next thing I want to say is I'm not sharing these in any particular order. I didn't necessarily read these in the order that I'm showing you. But the next was this beautiful disaster. This was recommended by my neighbor, Carissa, and it's like one of those quick reads. It looks like a really thick book, but it's a quick read. It's basically a boy meets girl type, well, technically a girl meets boy type story, and the kind of struggles that they face. And it is part of a series, and I read these other ones, Walking Disaster, which takes place telling you in this one, it's about Abby and Travis, and it's from Abby's point of view. This one is from Travis's point of view, so it's pretty much the same storyline. You get a few tidbits of his personal life. I didn't really care for this one as much as this one. I felt that like it was, even though it was retelling it, I felt like there could have been more the author could have done with this one. And this was by a Jamie McClure. I just felt like I enjoyed it. I read it. I definitely, it's one of those, but I felt there could have been something a little more. But I would definitely say this was a quick kind of read, and it came with another one called Beautiful Wedding, which I don't want to give too much away because it has to do with these first 2. And this one's even a shorter one. It's just a little novella in between these books. But at the same time, there's more coming out in that series that I actually will be getting soon, and I'll be reading, because that's how much I liked it. I liked that it was kind of a quick read. It wasn't, I want to say, nothing that really made you like think too much. It was just kind of a boy meets girl kind of thing, or girl meets boy, whatever you want to say. He's kind of a rough kind of bad guy, and it's just, I like that. And the other ones in this series kind of thing fall away. Like this is the beautiful one, but then there's ones that are similar to these, but they're about the Travis's brothers, and I read one of them this year, and I'll be reading more of them soon. So I like the idea that I can branch out and read more about the brothers, and it's kind of interesting. But again, this is another series that I started last year. Now this is one my daughter wanted me to read. It's called The Last Wild by Piers Torday. And he has a series of, I think there's like 2 more of these. My daughter said I can't read them until she reads them, so I was only able to read the first one. And with The Last Wild, it's basically where animals are starting to become extinct, and it's kind of like it's kind of hard to really say. Like I liked it. I definitely want to read the other ones, but it's a little hard to kind of describe it. It's basically like he escapes this place that he's been kind of held for a while, and he ends up going kind of on this like adventure-y thing and meeting some people along the way. One of those type of stories. But again, my daughter read this and liked it, and she read it probably a year or so ago, and she recommended it to me, so I read it and I actually liked it. I would give it like a 3 out of 5 stars. I wish I could delve more into it. I think this is one that I may have a review on my blog channel, which my website address will be in the description below too. So I'm kind of curious about the other ones. Like I'll probably have to skim this one because I read this early on last year, so that's why my brain's a little fuzzy on some of the details. But I definitely want to read the rest of the series when my daughter gets done with them. Okay, the last thing that was kind of a series, I believe, that I read last year was, I'll make sure that they're in the order. Okay, was Delirium, which was by Lauren Oliver, and it was in a series of Delirium, Pandemonium, and Requiem, I believe is how you say it. And this was interesting because my daughter had gotten me the middle book, and of course, knowing when I found out that it was part of a series, I definitely wanted to get the first book. There's 2 different types of covers, as you can see, for the series, so I had to get the first one. I would say that the first book in the series took me a little longer to get into. I think it was a good 100 pages before I really felt like, should I keep reading? But because my daughter had gotten me the second one, I knew I wanted to read it, because I told her whatever books she got me, I would definitely read. I wouldn't like unhaul them from being on my reading list. But this was kind of about what it's like to grow up where you're basically not allowed to fall in love. And when you're a certain age, they try to remove whatever thing that is from you that would make you fall in love. Like, love is kind of forbidden. You're pretty much assigned somebody when you're a certain age that would be your husband or your wife, and you're kind of assigned into a job you do and all that. And this girl ended up kind of breaking the mold a little bit, and it's kind of her struggle and her journey of meeting a boy and kind of what they have to go through, and that's what continues on with the other two. I would say my favorite was the second book out of it. I felt that this one was more fast-paced for me, and it just felt like it was a lot more interesting. The first and the third were like, okay, I felt it could have been something a little more done with the third. But overall as a series, I would definitely, I'm planning on keeping this so that my daughter can read it when she's a little older. Overall as a series, it's something that I would say try to read, because the idea that, the government wants to take away your ability to love and to have that kind of emotion is something that I thought was very interesting. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk a few about some of the books I read, and I'm trying to find them all, that were not a fiction book, and then I'll get back to the last little bit that I read. One was just a simple book I got from Christmas, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Life Lessons from the Cat. This was a quick little read, obviously, as you can see. I believe I got it at Christmas time. It had some cute little stories in there of just kind of, obviously, from Lessons from Cats. So it's just a quick little read that I did last year. This was one my daughter got me, but it's The Incredible Truth About Mothers. And it was, again, I think she got this one at that library book haul, and it's just a cute one with like images, and she just liked it. We actually read it together, even though she's almost 12. We read this together, and some parts were kind of funny, and she was laughing. So it's a cute little read if you ever find this somewhere. The next was kind of like self-improvement, home improvement type books, and one was How to Manage Your Home Without Losing Your Mind by Diana White, and then Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. I would say out of these two, this one I like the most because it is 21 tips to kind of help you with procrastination. I procrastinate on things a lot sometimes, so every now and then I'll go back to this book and I'll flip through and I'll look at one of the tips and be like, okay, I need to try doing that. Like, one of the things I do is I try to write out things I want to accomplish more for the week, and I use like my dry erase board that I actually can visually see when I'm walking around my home, so I can remind myself of things that I want to tackle this week. But there's other tips in here that I would say is a pretty good read. I would definitely say pick this up, flip through it, read through it, and then kind of hold on to it, so when you feel yourself slipping on your procrastination, go back and read. I always have like a bookmark ready, because I'm like, I can tell right now I'm probably going to skim this over next week just to kind of get back on track for this week and see what tips I can still use. And the same way, this was just kind of a generic kind of figuring out how to like get your house clean and stuff like that. I'm working right now on the idea of making my spring cleaning list, because I'm looking around and realizing certain things I need to tackle. So like, these kind of books will help me kind of get back into that spring cleaning type mode and kind of learn how to purge the things that are in my home and make the list to get it done. The last little bit of books I read last year, again, I read 22 books. It ended up being about 6,176 pages for all the books I read. That includes the Kindle. As you can tell, a lot of them are paperback, a few hardcovers. But let's go into the last little bit. We have Paper Towns by John Green, which I believe is a movie now. I've never seen the movie. You should comment down below if you've read the book and watched the movie and what you think. I know there's a few other ones I think that they made movies out of, but I haven't read them yet. Okay, so this is, I've just got to re-look over it. It's basically this boy that kind of really likes this girl, like his next door neighbor. And then he one night ended up going on this kind of adventure run, trying to get payback on some people that had hurt her. And then she kind of ends up disappearing, and it's kind of the journey to like find her, to know if she's even still alive, things like that. So this was, I would say this is a book that I may read again just because in case I missed something out of it, but it was a fair read. Like, I would give it like 3.5 to 4 stars if I had to give it a rating. I don't know if I really like the rating system between 1 and 5. I don't know how I want to really rate the books myself, but I would say this is one that maybe I would read again just for anything I might have missed the first time reading it. But it wasn't a bad read. I think less than a week to read it. It was a little slow paced in some parts for me, but overall it was a decent book. The other one was Where Things Come Back by John Corey Whaley. Again, I'm going to have a list of all these books in the description below in case I'm messing up any of the authors' names. This was kind of, I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Okay, so this is about, I'm making sure it's the right one and not the one I'm thinking about. Okay, so this, because I'm trying to remember, because some of them I don't want to get mixed up on the storylines because it's been a while since I read them. But this one was kind of interesting in the fact that like it takes a turn of events that you don't expect, and this boy's like kind of on that journey, and after losing someone in his family, or supposedly losing someone in his family, he just has a kind of a really rough summer. And by the end of it, it kind of does this kind of, I call it, a nice little twist of taking different stories and kind of combining them together, like not stories, but different characters' lives, and eventually seeing how they kind of cross paths. And I actually would say this is another 3.5 books if I had to give it stars. It is one I may read again, because again, sometimes when I read books, I'm excited to read them. I go through them faster, but I always sometimes give some books a second chance by reading them one more time to see if there's anything I might have missed the first time reading it. But it was interesting. I know that a lot of people like this book. I think it was a recommendation that like another YouTuber had made, and I was like, I'll check that out. But it was just an interesting kind of like summer of turn of events, and it just, the ending was kind of made me, I was pleased with the ending. But yeah, Where Things Come Back wasn't a bad book if you're looking for something to read. This next one was kind of funny, and again, it was one I saw that a fellow booktuber had read, and I think it was Jesse the Reader has showed this first time. Everybody's an Alien When You're an Alien Too by Jomny Sun. I like this book. My daughter liked this book. Like, this was like a day read of that, because when you open it up, it's basically pictures, and there's these little tidbits, nuggets of like wisdom throughout as this alien comes to Earth to kind of, get a grip on like our culture and our ways and stuff. So he comes to Earth, and it's just kind of cute when you're reading the stories, and I don't know how to begin. He meets a tree kind of thing, and it's just really cute, and I love the drawings in it. And it was something I was so glad that I picked up, because it was just one of those kind of quick reads, meaningful kind of reads of the little like way the alien kind of views the world. So I would definitely say if you can get your hands on this, I would. It was definitely something that, in its simplicity, there was complexity, and that's what I kind of like. It was just it was done in a very simple way, but yet there's a lot of meaning behind it. So I would give this book a chance. This next book, it's probably not going to stay on my bookshelf after like this year probably. It is one my daughter, I believe, got from the library again. It's called The Garden Angel by Mindy Friddle. And I think this is an older book too. Let me see. What year was this book? I should tell you what year these books are, but I'm not going to. This one was actually 2004, it looks like. This, I wasn't that pleased about it. It was about this girl who lives in this kind of rundown house that's been in the family, and she wants to keep it, but I think it's her sister. Let me see, is it her sister? Yeah, I think it's her sister, and she wants to sell it. Her brother, I think, wants to sell it, but she doesn't want to sell the house. And she ends up befriending the wife to her sister's like affair. Her sister's having an affair with this man who's married, and the main characters ends up friending the wife to that. So it's kind of like this complexity. It was interesting, but it just isn't something that I personally enjoy, which is really strange, because most of these books I enjoyed them on some level, but this one was just I read through it. My daughter picked it out, so I read through it. You may enjoy it more. I mean, it wasn't a terrible read. I would give it like a 3 if I had to. It's just not something that I most likely will read again, but it added to my numbers. Okay, we have 3 more books here. What Was Mine? This is by Helen Klein Ross. This one I actually really liked. Again, this might be an older book. It's sad to think that 2004 or whatever is older. But this was actually 2016. Okay, so it's newer than I thought it was. And it was about this woman who ends up stealing a baby, basically. And you end up seeing the story through her eyes, through the woman whose child had been stolen, and other people's eyes. I do feel some of the secondary characters that were introduced, I didn't follow the story. I found myself skimming those and wanting to get back to the main people. But it was a very interesting read to kind of see the complexity that goes on in it, and it's not such a simple case of why someone takes a baby. So I would definitely give this one a read if you can. I would give it probably, again, 3.5 to 4 stars if I had to give it a rating. Okay, and the 2 more books. We have Everything by Nicola Yoon, and Such a Pretty Girl by Laura Wiess. Again, I'll have a link to all these because I'm not sure if I'm saying their names right. If I had to say out of these 2 what I like the most, I like this one the most. This one was about a girl who, I'm trying to figure out without saying too much, is sick to a degree, we'll say, and she ends up finding the truth about her disease a little more through it, and it kind of did give me a little bit of a vibe of, what's that movie that just came out? Oh, I can't think of it. With Gypsy and the mom kind of making her feel sick. I don't remember what it was called, but it was on Hulu. This gave me that kind of vibe of like a mom and daughter kind of relationship you see, and she's in love with this boy, and it kind of goes on from there. But it was okay. Like, I remember seeing this talked a lot about on YouTube, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a chance. And I liked it, but it may, again, not be a book that I keep on my shelf. But I would give it a chance if you haven't ever read it. I mean, you may like it more than I did. I mean, it's basically, you know, yeah, it's a little hard to say. She falls in love with the boy next door, and then things kind of come to pass. She finds out a little bit more about her life and stuff, and things that she didn't realize was going on, or how her mother really was, and everything, just because of things that had happened in the past. But I would give it a read if you can. Like, I would get it from your local library. I wouldn't necessarily buy it if you could, unless you can get a used copy like I did, where it wouldn't be a lot of money being spent on it. But it wasn't bad. It's just not something I think that I'll actually read again. And then, like I said, this book I really liked. It was about a girl that was abused by her father. And I like reading the back, because it's like, they promised Meredith 9 years of safety, but only gave her 3. Her father was supposed to be locked up until Meredith turned 18. She thought she had time to grow up, get out, and start a new life. But Meredith is only 15, and today her father is coming home from prison. Today her time has run out. And when I saw this one, I love the cover of it. It's got that kind of wilted flower. And it's about abuse, and it's about her coming to terms with her father coming home. You will hate the way the mother is in this book, because I did too. And at the end, you'll just kind of, it'll be one of those kind of endings that you're a little sad over, but you're also like, yes, I'm glad it ended, we'll say, that way, or something like that. But it's definitely something I would read. I would definitely put this on your reading list. It's even something I may have my daughter read. This was 2007. This is even something I would have my daughter read when she's a little older, but because she's almost 13, and I think in another couple of years I can let her read this one. But I liked it so much that I bought other books by this author, and that's usually how I can tell if I liked a book, is did I buy another book by that author? And that's what I mean by some of the series I did. And like I said, I have other books by her coming, not coming, they're on my list. Like I said, I have a 2BR shelf over here that I'm going to be weeding through to really see what I want to read this year and what books I'm not interested in reading anymore, and kind of get rid of those. But this is basically all the books that I read in 2019 up on my website and in the description below. If you're interested, if I didn't mention any of the books that you see in the list in this video by chance, make sure you comment, and if need be, I will pop on here and do another video talking about the ones I didn't mention, or they could end up being reviewed on my website as well. But I hope this helped encourage you to read. Again, sometimes it's hard to really describe books, because sometimes they do mean something to you, but you don't want to give too much away, because you want someone else to kind of experience that journey as well. But I hope this kind of inspired you, like I said, to kind of maybe pick up a book and read if you're not someone that's a big reader, and just kind of challenge yourself. Maybe I'm trying to read 52 books this year, but you don't have to set a goal that high. You could say, I just want to read 5 books this year, 3 books this year, 1 book this year, something just to kind of get back into it, because I know that when I read, it kind of helps spark my creativity in other areas of my life too, as I read these stories. And again, I realized a lot of mine had like the family kind of drama and stuff like that. I think I gear towards that. And if you have any book recommendations that you think I may like, comment them down below as well, and maybe I'll give them a check them out sometime, and maybe you'll see them being reviewed in a future video. Keep in mind, these are all my opinions on these books. This doesn't mean I feel that any of these books were necessarily terrible. They're just some that just didn't kind of click with me, and that's what's so much fun about being able to give our opinions on different things, give my 2 cents on things, is we all have these different perspectives. And I'm sure there's going to be somebody down below that says, hey, you didn't give that one a very good rating, I really loved it. And that's great, because books mean something to everybody, and the takeaway I may get from a book is different than the takeaway you may get from it, and it may impact your life in a different way than it did mine. So really kind of, be nice down below. I would love to hear if you agreed with me on some of the books I talked about, if you disagreed. And again, suggest books to me. I'm always looking for suggestions, and you may even see them in a future video, like I mentioned. So just have fun reading, and try to have yourself a great 2020 year, and I will see you in my next video.